Heaving a sigh of irritation, he left his little love nest, which he'd had the foresight to set up in the sitting room attached to his bedchamber, and made the long journey down to the ground floor. The shrieking bell had been a faint ringing 2 flights up, but was deafening in the ceramic confines of the kitchen. "I'm coming," he yelled, doubtful that he could be heard over the din. He should have kept at least one servant until midnight for matters like this. "Enough already." He flung open the door and was confronted by darkness. He glanced at the gaslight sconce beside the door. Someone had smashed it. Albert frowned at the destruction. "What the devil?" he muttered, and then pulled his gaze away from what was left of the sconce and squinted as the darkness coalesced into a human shape. "Yes," he scowled when the figure remained silent. "You were ringing the bell like a lunatic, and now—" "Oh, it's you." Albert's shoulders, which had become painfully tense, relaxed as the shadowy form turned into a recognizable human being. "Why have you come to the back door? You know—" Oof! Albert looked down at where his visitor's hand had come to rest on his belly. The handle of a hunting knife jutted out. Searing pain accompanied the realization. "Good God!" He huffed out the words, staggered backward, and drew in a breath to yell. But his attacker was faster. Again and again the knife plunged into him, the arm flickering as though Albert were viewing it all from the window of a speeding train. His back rammed into something sharp and unforgiving, the edge of a counter or drawer, abruptly stopping his retreat. His arms, which he'd raised in a futile gesture of protection, became leaden and dropped to his sides. Albert's mind listed like a quickly sinking ship. "But—" It was all he managed to get out before he coughed up a great gout of blood and began to slide down to the floor. Hands grabbed his hair and slammed his head back against something sharp and hard. The agonizing pain from his skull caused his vision to double and treble. His aggressor dropped onto his chest, the familiar face distorted by ruthless determination and hatred. "Why?" And then a trail of fire across his throat cut off his words. His chest rose and fell, but no air reached his lungs. Above him, a pair of pitiless blue eyes watched and waited as the light faded to black. Chapter 1. New York City, July the 2nd, 1857. "My lord?" Jasper squinted through the haze of sleep at the sound of his valet's voice. "What time is it, Paisley?" he asked as he shielded his eyes against the low-burning gaslight lamp beside the bed. "Almost 5:30, my lord." He paused and then added, "In the morning." Jasper smiled at Paisley's gentle hint. Ever since his neighbor Mrs. Dunbarton's suicide, his normally dictatorial servant had worn kid gloves around him. Paisley had known, in the way servants do, that Jasper had begun to develop a liking for the acerbic widow. No doubt Paisley believed that Jasper's subsequent 5-day absence was his way of grieving for Mrs. Dunbarton. In part, his valet was correct. But Jasper was ashamed to admit that the impulse that had led him to Gordon Chang's place of business in the notorious 5 Points area had also been a self-destructive one, at least to begin with. It was fortunate for Jasper that Mr. Chang wasn't just a purveyor of opium. He was also trained in the Eastern discipline of acupuncture. Had Jasper indulged in his favorite vice while at Chang's? Of course he'd smoked opium, but he'd also slept, undergone acupuncture for his relentless headaches, and eaten the hearty but plain food Chang's Irish wife Irene cooked for their customers who stayed in the 3 monastic rooms the couple maintained in their own home for those who came to take acupuncture treatments. The bulk of Chang's customers, those who only wanted opium, were relegated to the tiny, darkened warren of rooms behind the small herbalist shop. It was possible that Jasper might even now still be living in that small, immaculate room, if he could have...